Hello, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about the new moon happening on October 21st, new moon in Libra at 28 degrees, and then a couple other aspects that are playing with all of these different energies that are moving around us right now. So to get started, if you're watching this on the 20th or the 21st or beyond, on the 20th, we had Mercury and Mars come together at 19 degrees Scorpio. So if we use our keywords and we look at what that might be pointing us towards, we're going to think about Mercury again, the mind, the logos, how we talk, how we communicate, how we get from, this to this, like that space between. That's all mercurial. It also is our nervous system because it's how our organs communicate with our brain. So the space between, communication, connection. That's why when Mercury goes retrograde, we always talk about, the technology, because that's one of the main ways that we connect and process. It's also our mental processing, very cerebral, very curious, busy, lots of information coming in and out. That's Mercury for you. He's Hermes in the Greek mythology. Then we have Mars, which is divine masculine energy. So this is going to be how we take action, being assertive. This is the body, passion. This is anger. This is the warrior. One, Jessica Lanadu, a fantastic astrologer who I love, she always says that Mars is punch, punch, bang, bang, like looking for a fight. So we have these two coming together. So it's like the mind and the body are merging together to kind of create this third experience. And they're in the sign of Scorpio. So Scorpio, which is fixed water, and it is, because it's water, we're talking about feelings, sensing, empathy, all of that lives outside of data and proof and language. And so in traditional astrology, Mars was actually a ruler of Scorpio in addition to being a ruler of Aries. But these are two really different energies. If you think about Aries as like cardinal fire, it is like going out and it's punch, punch, bang, bang, looking for a fight, like it's ready to go. Mars in Scorpio is a little bit different. Mars in Scorpio to me is not going out and looking for a fight, but absolutely ready to defend if a fight comes and lands in her lap. So she's a feminine, she's a receptive, right? Because it's water. Yin, it's going to be more receptive. Aries is masculine, more of that yang energy, and is going to be reacting versus responding. So we had that happening, and that kind of ushers us into the next day where some big astrology happens, which is going to be the Libra New Moon at 28 degrees Libra. And this new moon is creating what's called a T-square, a big red triangle with Chiron in Aries directly across. And it's because it's the new moon, it's the dark of the night, right? It's the moon on top of the sun, and we cannot see the moon. If you go out during a new moon, it's just the black night. And so this creates fertile soil for planting seeds and making our intentions. And so this is directly across opposing, having a conversation with retrograde Chiron in Aries. And Chiron is still in that ongoing square with Jupiter over in Cancer. And so same at 24 degrees. And so this is creating this big red square as both the sun and moon together down here, square Jupiter over here, and oppose Chiron, which means geometry-wise, there's another square happening right here, okay? And so that's happening with the new moon. But then we also have the activation of an ongoing water Grand Trine. And so again, water in astrology is going to be the way that we are sensing and feeling and knowing things outside of our seeing eyes. And so that happens because the personal planets begin to move into the later degrees of Scorpio, and we have Daddy Saturn sitting out at the end of Pisces, and then we have Jupiter, as previously mentioned, in the late degrees, that last third of Cancer. So that creates this really beautiful flow, an opportunity for clarity to come in, especially when we think about knowing things without being able to see them, prove them, hold them. It's a sensing, it's a feeling. So that water Grand Trine activating, that's going to go all the way through, I believe, like November 6th. So lots of beautiful energy coming in. And something with back to this kind of on the 20th with the merging of Mercury and Mars. The highest octave of this, like the enlightened, light-filled, more maybe mature expression of this merging would be this ability where all of a sudden the things you've been thinking about and processing, you're able to put into action in your life, in service of your life. So it's like taking the thought processes, making it tangible, making it real. And that's beautiful. That's amazing, right? So then the shadowy side, the lower side, is going to be more of those like, the words that sting. Think about Scorpio with that tail, Mars with his sword. He cuts, the cutting words, those sharp words, sharp language, defensiveness, kind of lurking, shadowy kind of lurking vibes that come in with that, which, there's so much opportunity, no matter which way this expresses from you or from other people towards you, for you to work with, the shadow aspects that come up. Because don't forget, we still have Pluto over there in the early degrees of Aquarius, and he's still activating that, the 3 outer planets. They're still in their conversation. So there's lots of opportunity here for shadow work and integration. And so that, I think, is so interesting, because I want to also mention Dark Moon is right by their conjunction. And Dark Moon, she is going to be the dark feminine. So dark feminine, to me, in my opinion and in my research, is represented by shame. And she uses shame as a way to try to modify behavior or the way people show up. And so shaming other people, but this can also be other parts of ourselves, shaming ourselves. So that's just something just to keep an eye out, just to notice that there could be some density, some heaviness out there in the collective or within your own system, within your own body, with all of your multiple parts. And then that brings us into the new moon. And, this new moon is at 28 degrees Libra, which to me, when we get to the late degrees of zodiac signs, we're mastering territory. So when you're in the last decan, there's like it's like expert level. Like we're really kind of working with some high level Libra themes in this new moon. Even though this new moon, is at the end, and then the sun's going to move into Scorpio the next day. Or maybe 2 days after. And so, there's this kind of like master level Libra. When we think about that, we're going to be talking about the scales, justice, harmony, peace. That way that we can make connections and networking. We're initiating connection. It's ruled by Venus. And so and she's also in Libra right now. And so this, way that she's all about our self-worth. She's called the money planet. She, is how we manifest. She's our relationships, social justice. These are all pieces that are up in the collective right now. And so we're thinking about that with the sun and the moon, where it's dark. We're in the dark now. There's no light in the night. Like, we're learning to walk in the dark with this. And then we have Chiron and Jupiter, this ongoing square, which I've talked a lot about before. But this ongoing square, with Jupiter over in Cancer, this is family oriented. There's a sensitivity. Jupiter always wants us to grow, wants us to expand, to have the blessings of our hard work. He's, it's all about abundance. And Jupiter, my favorite mantra for him is like, show me how good I can get. And so Jupiter, with this sensitivity and family orientation, connection to the past, squaring Chiron, to me is talking about some inner child stuff, possibly some things coming up from those young, tender parts of self. And something that I've been working on, in my professional work, but also, personally, and, that I'm hearing a lot about and I'm reading a lot about when we are learning about grief and grief work and heart work, all of that. There's something important to recognize about, your own experience as a child, and being curious about what that was like for you as a little person, not as a grown-up looking back and going, oh yeah, that makes sense, all the things now, the things you didn't know, but you were doing your very best as a little person. And so often we'll hear like, oh, well, I had a roof over my head, and we went on family vacations, and all my needs were met. It was great. I had a great childhood. Like, I had everything I needed, which is wonderful, yes. And did your parents enjoy you? Did you feel like your parents enjoyed you? Because when we don't feel like our parent or our parents enjoyed us, we interpret that with worthiness, a lack of worthiness, and often that's where the birthplace of shame begins. Okay? And so that idea of feeling like we were enjoyed, or maybe even presently, do we presently feel enjoyed by our parents? As a parent, do we enjoy our children? All of these different perspectives that we can use to look at this. And if you come to that question and there's an emotional response to that, or there's a veil lifted of like, oh, I don't feel like I was enjoyed and celebrated just for who I am. The remedy for that as a grown-up is to be able to offer that to your young parts now, to be able to see your little parts in their fullness, and to be able to enjoy that childlike wonder that you have within, because you have these child parts frozen in time. If you are a parent, enjoying your own children is going to also start this healing cycle. So to be able to just look at them with awe and wonder. And of course, we are all humans, so there's no way we can be in awe and wonder of our children all the time. I have two beautiful, wonderful, just fantastic little children of my own, and definitely cannot live in a state of just constant, delight and adoration. I mean, it's real life. So things get gritty, it gets hard, shit hits the fan, but what's the comeback from that, right? My favorite parenting statistic, I don't know, I guess because we're talking about parenting, is that in order for secure parenting, I will often ask clients, how often do you think things need to be good in order for there to be secure attachment? And the numbers that they throw out are like 95% of the time, 90% of the time, at least 80%, at least 70% of the time. Things only need to be good 33% of the time. Okay? 33% of the time, things are good. 33% of the time, shit is hitting the fan. And then the most important aspect of this is the 33% of the time, which is the comeback from the shit hitting the fan. Okay? And actually that last 33% is truly the only area that we have really influence and loose control over, that we can actually effort in. You can't really, if things are good, they're good until they're not, right? And that, so much of that is out of our control. But the third of that actually cements insecure attachment, whether this is with our outside children or with your inside parts, your inside children, you're doing that self-parenting role. That last 33rd is the comeback, the checking on each other. How you doing? I'm sorry I said that like that. I'm sorry I ignored you in that moment when I was having that difficult conversation with maybe a family member, and I overrode myself, or I betrayed myself. It's a comeback. You come back to yourself, and you come back to your parts, and you make amends. Or if it's your outside children, it's like, yeah, mommy really lost her cool right then, and I'm so sorry, and that was probably scary if I raised my voice. And it's the knitting back together, and that's secure attachment, and that's safety. That's nervous system safety. So the more that we do this with ourselves, or we do it with outside children, the safer we feel in our own bodies, and the more access we have to these younger parts to do these deep dives, to ask the questions of like, did I feel like I was enjoyed as a child or not? And so I feel like there's something with this new moon creating this T-square with the Chiron Jupiter ongoing square happening there, which seems like this is something you've been chewing on it for a while. This is not brand new. This did not happen 2 days ago and now you're working with it. Like, this is a pattern, this is a dynamic, this is something you are familiar with, and it continues to come up. The beautiful thing about this is, we're talking about inner child stuff, is that Grand Water Trine, Daddy Saturn is here. He is in the room. We have a parent in the room who is mature, who is disciplined, and he's in Pisces. I mean, lovely, swirly, compassionate, forgiving Pisces. And he's creating that trine with the personal planets down in Scorpio, all in water, and Jupiter. So there's this beautiful aspect of Jupiter trining Saturn, which is like, Saturn is like, you work hard for your rewards. And Jupiter says, I want to make sure you have all your rewards. And so here they are, and he's like abundant in the blessings. Saturn might withhold for a minute, but will reward for the hard work. And so there's this beautiful way that all of this is flowing. And of course, when we're talking about inner child work, we're talking about the young parts of our brain, we're talking about the reactive parts of our brain, we're talking about the parts of us that don't have a lot of language. Okay, they're little. They are not going to be able to use big fancy therapy words to express to you what's going on. What actually typically happens when we know there's a young part forward in our systems is we go, I know that this isn't a big deal. I rationally am aware that I'm okay, I'm safe, I'm not going to die, but my body is reacting like this is life or death. Like I feel it in my body, or I've done so much reading about this. I've done so much talking about this. I'm past this. I know what this is, and I'm over it. But my body's not. And so here we are again, Mercury and Mars conjunction. The body is holding these memories. Also, the logos is now aligning with the body. There's more opportunity, and then we got that beautiful water Grand Trine that's saying, let's let it flow. Let's just be with these feelings and let them flow. And I almost see it as like a filtration system of like, if it's muddy, it's blurry, it's dark, it's going to continue to clear it out, like this clear flow. And this is happening for the next couple weeks. And so while we've got a lot going on, it feels really supportive. I also think it's going to continue to come at us really quickly. It doesn't feel like anything is slowing down by any means, even though some of these aspects are holding for a little while. There's a lot there. There's a lot of material to work with. And so again, like in my last video, we were talking about vesseling, like really feeling strong and fortified in our own systems so that we can feel confident moving through this and holding and allowing the waters to just flow through us, just coursing through us, just letting it flow, letting it flow, letting it flow. Okay, if you have any planets or angles in the last decan of water signs, so I would say like 22, 23, maybe 21 degrees to 29 degrees of water, this water Grand Trine is really working with you. Anything in the final degrees, last few degrees of cardinal signs, that's going to be Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. This is also working with you personally, this new moon. And then, of course, anything in these are also cardinal, but late Aries, late Cancer, you're really working with that Jupiter Chiron ongoing square too. So, okay, that's some tidbits. I'll be wishing you well, and I hope that this was helpful. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll be back soon.